Dark Sector is the first game I've beaten this year that after all was said and done, I can say that I simply did not enjoy myself while I was playing it. And it's too bad. It seems like it should be fun. It had attributes that made me think I was playing the game wrong, because the concept and tools available must be fun to use, although not an abysmal game. It's not as though it's the worst game I've ever played. It just didn't provide me with a good time. The first thing that got my eyes rolling was the look. So drab. Some parts I had to wonder, were they going with a black and white feel? I know it's not the first time I've complained about something like this, and I know it's not a new complaint from many gamers whose reviews I've read, so I won't spend too much time with it, but come on, put some color in your games. What else is something that I come back to every now and then? The two-weapon systems. 2 guns and grenades is what you get in this third-person shooter action title. I often pick on this feature, more so because it tends to equal boredom as opposed to tactical planning. I think of a game like Vanquish. Now it had a 3-gun weapon system, but the fact that you could easily pick up new weapons that were varied along the way, and although at any one time you could only have 3 guns and your grenades, it never really felt like I was limited to that because it was easy to find other ones and pick up and use them. It made it fun, and the weapon variety was large enough that you could kind of get a good feeling for some of them, and the good use of an upgrade system made it interesting. Not so for me with Dark Sector. The controls are also sticky. I find it's hard to move fluidly from one action to another. I would hope that when I use the dodge command, as I'm rolling, I can get myself ready to quickly press the button to perhaps switch my weapon. But no, he's got to roll, then he's got to stand up, then he's got to go, whoa, I got up too fast, head rush, and then I'm okay to kind of switch weapons. It just didn't feel like it was easy to chain actions together. And speaking of dodging, again, we get a game where we put the dodge and the cover command on the same button. I get there's a limited number of buttons on controls, but the way they put this together reminds me of the dodge and cover action going on in the first Uncharted. I would try to dodge an attack that with one hit is going to give me serious damage, and instead of actually dodging, my character decides, you know what, I'm just going to go lean up on this wall a little bit, maybe they'll forget I'm here. And it's hard to tell how much damage you've taken because it goes with the system where you won't know until you see the screen turning the color red and you hear your heart pumping. And none of the enemies you face off against have a health bar or any kind of visual indicator to let you know how close they are to death. It makes it very hard when trying to figure out if I'm doing the right thing during a boss battle. Some of the battles took longer than they should have, and in part it's because there wasn't a clear indication that I was doing any damage, and no hint as to what I was supposed to be doing. And it's not just the bosses either. For example, in one section you're squared off against a big mech thing called a jackal. Your goal? Kill it. Blow it up. Then in a section soon after, there's another jackal. Your goal? Kill it. Blow it up. Oh, no, sorry, don't kill it. Incapacitate it. Then go around back and pull out the driver. How am I supposed to know to change my tactics? This is the time where you're supposed to throw in one of those cheesy lines with something like, I better commandeer this one, or something like that. Let me know that this fight's going to be different than the one that I just went through with the exact same type of enemy. And I hope no one's mistaking this for me saying, please hold my hand and tell me everything I need to do so I have to figure nothing out on my own. Because that's not the message I'm trying to get across. I'm just saying it should be pretty clear when you're doing something right and when you're doing something wrong, so that you know, should I continue down this path or should I try something else to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. None of this is about the game being too hard, because it's not. I was able to play through it and beat it. And I'm not the greatest gamer out there, so it's not that it's too hard. It's that the things that were holding me back, taking up time in the game, and tripping me up, are things that I don't think should be doing this. And this also includes things like using your weapons. What the big catch in this game was, or at least what should have been the big feature for me, is using the glaive. Instead, it's just a big pain in the ass. It's a giant tri-blade throwing weapon that always comes back. eventually. And that's my first issue with the thing. It's slow. When you have 4 or 5 zombie creatures bearing down on you, faster than you can move, and you throw this weapon, you better hope you make contact on every hit. It may only take 2, maybe 3 seconds in between when you start your throw and when the glaive comes back to you and you're in a position where you're ready to throw it again. But even if it is only 2 seconds, it feels like a long 2 seconds when you're in the middle of an intense fight. Not to mention that even if you do hit somebody, it usually doesn't seem to dish out much damage. Some of these enemies seem to take forever to go down. Of course, you can use a more powerful shot with the glaive if you charge it first, but the charging system's a pain as well. Most games that I can think of, when you have the option to charge up a weapon, you press a button and you hold it down, and your weapon charges, and eventually you hear some sort of sound that's going whoa, 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 it's telling you, okay, I'm charged up. But the game knows you're not necessarily going to time your charge so that you're ready to use your weapon at the exact point in time that it's at peak power. So you can kind of hold the charge until you're ready to fire or shoot your weapon. Not so with this game. No, instead what you get is a system that when you use the zoomed in targeting system, that's when you can actually see your reticle, only when you use this zoomed in version. You hold down the throw button and your reticle will change color for a split second, telling you that now's the time to throw it to get full power. But the trouble is, the enemies do move around quite a bit, and they'll duck for cover as well. So not only do you have to time the charge properly and release it quick enough before you miss your chance, you also have to hope that there'll be someone there when you throw it. It's funny because as I'm doing this review, a lot of these things seem like complaints that can be answered with, all you need is practice, which really may be the case, which goes back to my earlier point. Maybe I just don't know how to play the game properly. All I know is some games make getting good at them fun, and some games make getting good at them feel real tedious. But that's not where my issues with the glaive stop. It's also the most limited in range of all your weapons. You throw it just to find out the bad guy's too far away, you might as well just pull out even your handgun and start shooting away at them. And why not? The guns are stronger anyway. Well, maybe not each individual bullet is stronger, but considering how fast they shoot compared to the glaive, they put up an equal amount of force, if not more. They also seem better at tripping up your enemies to slow them down more. They did try to add some elements to using the glaive that did add a little bit of enjoyment to it. So if there's some fire nearby, or maybe a shorted out electrical panel, or a tank full of some sort of frozen, presumed liquid nitrogen, you can throw your glaive at these items and charge them with that power, so that you can burn, freeze, or electrocute your enemies. I gotta give it credit for coming up with that mechanic. You can also go into a mode where you can manually guide the glaive using the 6-axis controller, which does seem like it should be fun, but myself I found the controls too imprecise, which made it too awkward to be extremely valuable. But back to the guns. This guy's supposed to be a trained soldier. Hold still, especially with the long-range rifles. I think it gives the sniper rifle in Killzone 1 on the PS2, if anyone's played that, a run for its money in terms of how much this guy moves around when you're looking through the scope. Now you can find an upgrade for the gun that will hold it still for you. Unfortunately for me, and with the way the upgrade system works, I didn't know that this upgrade was available. And I filled up the 3 slots for upgrades with other items. And you can't un-upgrade the items to trade out which upgrades they have. So it was too bad for me as far as the accuracy goes. To get weapons, you can pick up the ones that were left lying on the ground by downed enemies. But very early in the game you become infected, which gives you the power to use the glaive, and apparently these weapons detect infected people, and they'll stop functioning after a short period of time. The other way you can get weapons is to buy them. And they're not cheap. I did find they cost quite a bit, so you kind of have to plan ahead as to which weapons you want to buy before you go on a shopping spree, but of course you don't know what kind of weapons will be available later on in the game. To get money, you have to find it, and the money will be lying around in various places. Maybe I just didn't find all the places they had the money, which made it seem like the guns were more expensive than they really were. But you'll want to get those guns, and you'll want to get those upgrades. You'll need every edge you can get, because your enemies are fast and powerful. You have regenerating health, but you'll be running for cover so much that I found I spent more time hiding than anything else in this game. I would walk into a room and have to back out of almost every one to try and bottleneck the bad guys coming at me. I must have had to retrace every step I took at least once. And some enemies have enough power to their hits that just one can put you in that state where the screen goes all red and you hear your heart thumping as it tries to tell you, "You're about to die, loser!" So one more time, in case you missed it, this game seemed to have a lot of potential, with a lot of elements that should make it fun. It just wasn't for me. I find it to be sloppy gameplay that takes what looks like should be a good time and turn it into something clumsy and monotonous.